Something my husband told me ages ago, because we all go through experiences and life is full of surprises.
So what do you do when your marriage is in such a good place and you're just blissfully happy? Inappropriately lunge for a hug with another woman.
We're not wearing our engagement ring. Interesting.
Meghan Markle walked into David Foster's gala with one obvious problem already hanging over her head. People wanted to know where her engagement ring had gone. Then Prince Harry hugged another woman. And suddenly, that missing ring became a whole lot harder to ignore.
Meghan has not been wearing her engagement ring in public for at least 5 days. Now, Yahoo is actually reporting she hasn't been wearing it in public for 4 months. But most news outlets only realized this about 5 days ago, which tells us a lot about the waning interest in Meghan Markle in the marketplace.
Because Harry did not simply exchange a polite hello with singer Sydney Christmas after her performance. He walked toward her, wrapped her in a huge hug, and told her how deeply her performance had affected him. Meghan was at the same event. Cameras were everywhere. People were already dissecting every tiny detail of the Sussex marriage. Could the timing have possibly been worse? This gala was supposed to help Harry and Meghan.
When I was on stage, I joked about meeting his dad before adding, sorry he couldn't make it, he sent me instead. Oh my God, I say such silly things when I'm nervous, but Harry started laughing. Here's where it gets weird. When I got down off stage, he just came forward and gave me a big cuddle. And he went, Sydney, I felt every word. I really felt that in the back of my throat. Revealing how the fifth in line to the throne ditched royal protocol, Sydney continued, he just went in for the hug. And I was like, why not?
After Meghan appeared without her engagement ring, after she attended the Cookie Queen screening without Harry, and after questions started piling up about why the couple seemed to be moving in different directions, this was their opportunity to walk into one room together and make all of that chatter look ridiculous. Smile, pose, look happy, go home. Instead, the night turned into another Sussex circus. First, Meghan appeared to start directing people around the red carpet. Then she stopped to make sure moments were captured on a phone.
This is his last event. This is his last fundraising event. And he wanted to go out with a bang. Harry and Meghan were supposed to have moved and give them space so David Foster and his wife could take center stage and be pictured, filmed together alone. Did Meghan Markle do it? Let's find out. Of course they didn't. And you can see that David Foster is livid.
Then came the enthusiastic dancing, cheering, and attention-grabbing reactions throughout the evening. And while Meghan was busy creating one viral moment after another, Harry somehow created the biggest one. With Sydney Christmas, Sydney had just performed for the room, including Tomorrow and My Way, when Harry approached her afterward. She had already joked about previously meeting King Charles, telling the crowd that Harry's father could not be there and had basically sent her instead. Harry laughed.
But no one was watching her during the moment that Harry lunged at Sydney Christmas. Now, this is the Britain's Got Talent winner who has spoken about what went down in a brand new interview with Ellie Henman of The Sun's Bizarre column. She writes, Prince Harry has given his royal seal of approval to 2024 Britain's Got Talent winner Sydney Christmas.
Before we continue, I want to mention something really quick. Organizing your family's important information is one of those things most of us know we should do, but we keep putting it off. That's exactly why there's the Family Vault. It gives you one place to organize your important documents, insurance, medical information, passwords, and more, so everything is easy to find when it's needed. You'll find the link in the description, or you can scan the QR code on your screen. That's all. Now, let's get back to today's story. Then, after the performance, he went straight in for the hug. Not some stiff little handshake, not the awkward half-hug people give strangers, a proper cuddle. Harry told Sydney that he had felt every word she sang, and that the performance had hit him right in the back of the throat. And again, none of that proves Harry did anything inappropriate. A hug is a hug. It does not prove an affair. It does not prove some secret relationship. It does not prove Harry is interested in another woman. But in celebrity drama, timing can turn something completely innocent into a disaster.
And it came across as very odd. I feel you in the back of my throat. Maybe that's a British thing. I'm not quite sure what Harry is trying to get across there. But the whole perspective comes across as very odd, going in and lunging for a hug and a cuddle, as she describes it. Again, shows Harry kind of desperately trying to figure out, I think, what this post royal life means.
And this timing was brutal. Only days earlier, Meghan had appeared publicly without the engagement ring Harry designed for her. Not just any random piece of jewelry. That ring, the one connected to the entire story of Harry and Meghan's relationship. Its center stone came from Botswana, a country tied to the beginning of their romance. The smaller stones were connected to Princess Diana. Harry helped design the piece himself.
It is surrounded, that 3-carat diamond is surrounded by 2 side diamonds, once belonging to Princess Diana. Normally, that thing would come off with like a crowbar. Like the jaws of life would have to remove it.
For years, it has basically been one of the most recognizable symbols of their marriage. And now, it is missing. Maybe there is a completely boring explanation. Maybe Meghan is having it adjusted. Maybe she simply did not feel like wearing it. Maybe she preferred different jewelry that day. None of those explanations would be shocking.
Her engagement ring is worth $140,000. And as we will see when we go through what she was wearing at this premiere, this bullshit premiere she showed up at last Wednesday, she loves to flaunt her largesse. She's very nouveau riche. She loves to flaunt her riches. This engagement ring is a 3-carat cushion cut center diamond from Botswana.
But people noticed because Meghan was still wearing other jewelry. She was still polished. She was still posing. Her hands were clearly visible. The wedding band remained. The engagement ring did not. And that is what made the Cookie Queen's appearance such a strange setup for everything that followed. Meghan was still wearing other expensive pieces, still carefully styled, still presenting herself the way she normally does when cameras are around. Nothing about the appearance looked accidental.
Further evidence to the reports that Harry may reportedly have another woman who Harry is quote unquote in love with and who is quote unquote in love with Harry. And that Meghan knows reportedly, allegedly, because Meghan reportedly, allegedly discovered incriminating texts on Harry's cell phone.
So when one specific piece disappeared, the piece carrying the most emotional meaning, people were always going to zoom in on it. The ring was not hidden by gloves. Her hands were visible. It was simply absent, while the rest of the polished image remained intact. Then, things became even more confusing at the Cookie Queen screening. Meghan arrived without Harry, yet somehow Harry still became part of the performance.
Even if there's a storm happening, above the storm, the sun's always shining. And that's a perspective that only comes when you think about zooming out a little bit. So I think when you really zoom out and think, my gosh, how many things have we gone through that have felt hard, and then you still get
okay,
through
that's
them?
enough
Or
of
how many
that.
goals
That's enough of Meghan. Oh my God.
She went on stage and told a sentimental story about something her husband supposedly tells her during difficult moments. The message was that even when you are underneath a storm, the sun is still shining above it. Then came the familiar romantic language. Harry calling her my love. Marriage wisdom. Perspective. Getting through difficult moments together. It was supposed to sound sweet, but look at the picture Meghan was accidentally creating. Harry is not there.
My favorite is when she relays conversations in which Harry says to her, my love, my love. And the way she said it there, my husband said to me one day, hey, my love, like she zoomed through it, like it doesn't sound right in her mouth because nobody in the year 2026 talks like that. Nobody does. Plus, we know Harry's occupied elsewhere, allegedly, reportedly.
The engagement ring is gone. People are asking questions about the marriage. And Meghan is suddenly standing on stage, reminding everyone how loving her husband is. That is exactly the type of thing that can backfire when a celebrity couple is already under a microscope. Because instead of people thinking, "Aw, how romantic," they start asking why you felt the need to bring it up at all. Where is Harry? Where is the ring? Why are we suddenly hearing this sentimental husband story? And why is Harry becoming part of a speech at a Cookie Queen screening? The event itself was supposed to be a positive moment for Meghan.
it's getting appalling numbers even for a documentary like this. And per theatre, it was taking between $700 and $735. And by any metric, Brittany, no matter what type of movie you're talking about, that is a flop. Okay, that is a flop that just can't go on. It won't stay. Theaters won't keep your movie.
She had driven down for a special screening of the documentary, which carried both Harry and Meghan's names as executive producers. This should have been about the girls, their stories, their achievements, the documentary. Instead, attention quickly bent back toward Meghan, her clothes, her jewelry, her expensive-looking accessories, her answers, her jam, her favorite cookies, her family, and of course Harry.
Meghan Markle is actually a drag on the film in terms of that. When it comes to her being so attached to the promotion, they really thought this would help get the film in front of more eyes. But the reality is the Girl Scouts is sort of a dying brand.
Even when Harry was nowhere in sight, Harry still somehow ended up in the Meghan Markle show. Then the theatrical performance of Cookie Queens gave her another headache. The film opened across hundreds of theaters, yet the overall weekend numbers were underwhelming. Some screenings were reportedly barely occupied, including one Thursday showing with only a handful of people inside.
I actually did get to see the movie on Thursday. They had Thursday previews for this.
Oh my God,
well.
did you? Tell me
I certainly
everything.
did. Yes. So I was in the theater with only 2 other people.
So Meghan was suddenly dealing with multiple narratives at once. A documentary struggling to fill seats, a solo appearance, a missing engagement ring, and renewed questions about why Harry was not beside her. Then came David Foster's Gala. Perfect. Finally, Harry and Meghan together again. They could crush the speculation in one photograph. They arrived looking dressed for a date night. They smiled. They stood beside each other. Harry was back in the frame. Problem solved, right? Not even close. The red carpet immediately became awkward.
The only reason you're there is because you're royal. The only reason they got the invitation is that David Foster and Catherine knew that they invited Harry and Meghan, they would get more headlines, and that's what they wanted, and that's what they got, and that's all they cared about. Harry and Meghan have nothing to offer except for that royal piece, and they exploit it quite a bit.
Meghan appeared to start orchestrating where people should stand around David Foster and Catherine McPhee. There were gestures, movements, repositioning, and the kind of overly involved energy that instantly gets people asking why a guest seems to be directing the host's photograph. This was David Foster's event. Yet somehow Meghan still looked determined to organize the shot. Then another moment started spreading.
I have to be honest, like, the imagery that Meghan chose to put out, I don't think she realizes that we just totally see through her act now, like this with the sexy bagpipe troupe.
I love bagpipes.
Oh my God. This is great. So we're mine. Yeah. What about pipes and drums? Pipes and drums. It's pipes and drums. Just to be clear.
Harry had walked ahead while Meghan stopped behind so someone could pull out a phone and capture her reaction to the pipes and drums. Suddenly, Meghan was performing excitement for the camera. Then came the dancing, the hollering, the huge reactions during Adam Levine's performance. Again and again, the cameras seemed to find Meghan doing something. The same problem followed them into the gala because the couple seemed to arrive carrying different energies. Meghan appeared focused on the room, the cameras, the positioning, and the spectacle around her.
Meghan Markle at the event dancing with, and Harry's just sitting there going, "Can you please stop this now? Can you please stop it?" Like, you can feel, again, it's that main character energy that Meghan Markle has, where she's kind of making a fool of herself, bringing attention to herself. And yes, it seems to be, maybe there's people definitely on the floor dancing. I don't know why Harry isn't dancing. Like, the whole thing comes across as just a smidge odd. But Meghan Markle, there was an event, obviously, with Tyler Perry and Kerry Washington, where Meghan Markle and Kerry Washington were vibing.
Harry looked more reactive than controlling. He moved through the event, responded to the music, laughed at familiar references, and seemed especially animated whenever something connected back to Britain. That contrast does not prove tension, but it gave people more material. One spouse looked determined to manage the moment. The other looked like he was simply moving through it and reacting as he went. Harry was more difficult to read. Sometimes he looked perfectly happy. Other times his expression appeared to change the second he noticed filming. 1 second, flat. Next second, smile activated.
Then this was the Instagram story she posted during the auction.
Here's how I can help you. I'm $50,000 to bid now. Now is $60,000 now. I got $55,000 you currently bid, everybody. Come on, bid cards up now. I need $60,000 because
I think Harry's awkward smile really said it all. It's like he's looking very unhappy. Look at that. And then he realizes, oh gosh, she is recording me again. I better smile.
Does that prove Harry was miserable? Of course not. Nobody can look inside somebody's marriage through a 10-second video. But once people are already hunting for tension, those clips become gasoline. Every expression gets frozen. Every glance becomes suspicious. Every awkward movement turns into another theory. And then Sydney Christmas entered the picture. That is when the night really went off the rails. Sydney is a singer and Britain's Got Talent winner who is roughly a decade younger than Harry.
I guess the problem is, Brittany, do you know what she can't be posting on the gram? The hubby lunging at Sydney Christmas. There was no Sydney Christmas reference whatsoever on Meghan Markle's Instagram, and that doesn't surprise me because it was highly inappropriate. I thought of Prince Harry.
She finishes performing. Harry walks toward her. Big hug, huge smile, emotional compliment. And suddenly, the same man people have spent days wondering about is looking incredibly warm and enthusiastic with another woman. Again, completely innocent explanations exist. But imagine the optics. Meghan has stopped wearing the engagement ring. Marriage speculation is already flying around. Meghan attends an event alone and publicly tells everybody how sweet and supportive Harry is.
By all accounts, this woman was very happy with her boyfriend, but as Nancy Sidley put it, imagine this being your pinch me moment.
Then the couple finally reappears together. And one of the most talked about moments involves Harry embracing another woman. You could not script worse timing. There was another strange part too. Meghan captured plenty from the gala. The venue, the music, the performances, the spectacle, Harry in other moments. But the Sydney hug was not exactly turned into some cute piece of Sussex couple content. Maybe Meghan never saw it.
Can you just bring yourself down to earth?
Maybe she was somewhere else. Maybe she saw everything and did not care in the slightest. But when someone records so much of an evening, anything that does not appear naturally becomes more noticeable. And that is the bigger problem Harry and Meghan now have. Their marriage rumors are not being driven by one enormous smoking gun. There is no single moment that proves everything is collapsing. Instead, people are collecting tiny pieces.
Engagement-free hands in a close-up on said hands in a reel that she posted to her as her failing as ever enterprise, the official Instagram account.
Missing engagement ring. Solo appearance. Emotional Harry story. Harry talking more about Britain. Harry reconnecting with parts of his old world. Meghan increasingly focused on California business projects. Awkward gala footage. Meghan filming everything. Harry hugging Sydney. Individually, most of those things could mean absolutely nothing. Together, they create a story. And once the public has created a story, getting rid of it becomes extremely difficult, especially because Harry appears increasingly emotionally connected to Britain.
Look, Brittany, at the very least, we can say that is weirdly inappropriate for someone who claims to be a member of the British royal family. It's very casual and certainly not something you would see most royals do.
For months, more attention around Harry has centered on reconciliation, his father, returning to the UK more frequently, and potentially rebuilding relationships he lost after leaving royal life. Put Harry around something British and his entire energy seems to change. At this gala, the pipes and drums immediately grabbed him. Sydney makes a joke involving King Charles and Harry laughs. Then, a British talent show winner finishes performing and Harry enthusiastically pulls her into a hug.
He told Sid, quote, he felt every word in the back of his throat. After she performed Tomorrow from Anne, both tracks have poignant lyrics about overcoming difficulties and being beaten down, which is rather apt for Harry, who has endured setback after setback recently.
Meanwhile, Meghan's public world feels completely different. Lifestyle branding, products, Instagram, jam, fashion, screenings, entertainment projects, California, business. Harry looks increasingly drawn toward the world behind him. Meghan looks increasingly determined to build the world in front of her. Can a married couple do both? Absolutely. But when two people's public paths appear to be stretching in opposite directions, people are naturally going to ask questions.
How tacky. Not bidding for the gala, not helping towards fundraising, but filming your place settings for social media content. I swear she's mentally stuck at the age of 12, just like Harry. And I mean, I felt this, look at this, when she was awkwardly dancing and actually hollering during an Adam Levine performance, just making sure everyone's actually watching her.
That is why the engagement ring suddenly has more meaning now than it might have had during some completely quiet period. Imagine Meghan had skipped the ring once 18 months ago while absolutely nothing else was happening. People might have noticed for a day. Then everyone moves on. But remove that ring during a period when Harry is talking more about Britain, when the couple is appearing separately, when marriage rumors are already circulating, and then have Harry publicly embracing another woman days later? Now people connect dots, fairly or unfairly.
I mean, it's so annoying to see that laugh because, like, I think you're right. I think she genuinely thinks we don't see through it at this point. But there is no more fake person in the world than Meghan Markle. She looks incredibly fake and contrived. And the more she tries to emulate warmth, the less you believe it.
And Meghan understands better than most celebrities how powerful those little visual details can become. She understands red carpets. She understands photographs. She understands outfits. She understands jewelry. She understands Instagram. She understands exactly how a single photograph can become the entire story. That is why this gala should have been incredibly simple. Turn up. Stand beside your husband. Smile.
She just needs to go and stand and smile and avoid this awkwardness in front of banks of cameras. When a picture tells the real story, the Fosters cannot stand Meghan and Harry.
Enjoy the music. Support David Foster. Leave. Instead, Meghan ended up directing people on the carpet, stopping for phone footage, dancing dramatically, reacting for cameras. Harry produced a collection of expressions people immediately started analyzing. And then Harry hugged Sydney. How does one charity gala generate this much mess? Even the setting makes it worse. This was supposed to be comfortable territory. David Foster and Catherine McPhee have been connected to Harry and Meghan for years. No royal family members staring across the room. No tense palace setting. No giant reunion Harry had to navigate.
And there was lots of other cringe connected to this event, including the copying of William and Catherine's fashion, as the veil between us pointed out. Well, it appears that Zarkle isn't the only one cosplaying a member of the royal family. Zarkle wore a cape dress like Princess Catherine, and Harry wore a velvet jacket like Prince William. How pathetic are these two?
No complicated public royal engagement. It was charity, music, Canada, friendly faces, a glamorous evening. And somehow, they still walked away with a fresh round of drama. Now, imagine Meghan waking up the next morning and looking at what everybody is talking about. Her red carpet directing, her dancing, her filming. Cookie queens struggling. The missing engagement ring still generating questions. And now, Harry's big moment of the night is him wrapping another woman in a cuddle. Would Meghan actually be furious? Nobody outside that marriage knows.
Everything looks increasingly strained because they look ridiculous. They're acting ridiculous. They left. They chose to leave. And there are perfectly legitimate ways for them to have somewhat of a public profile, but not constantly looking like they're trying to recreate what they lost.
Claiming some giant private meltdown without evidence would be ridiculous. But would it be surprising if the optics irritated her? Not really. Because Meghan has spent years carefully presenting Harry and their marriage as part of one united story. Harry is not simply her husband in the public Sussex image. He is a massive part of the brand. Their royal departure was about them choosing their new life together. California was their fresh start together. Major interviews were done together. Production projects carried both names. Their public identity was built around the idea that Harry and Meghan were one unit against the world.
before this moment even happened, Meghan had to stop walking, tell her assistant to pull out her phone and start recording. That's why Harry is so far ahead of her. Imagine living your life having to set up and record every moment just to feel validated, including your engagement.
Even at Cookie Queens, Harry was absent physically but still appeared inside Meghan's story. And that is what makes the current situation fascinating. And that matters because Harry and Meghan have spent years selling the idea that they function best as a unit. Their chapters have depended on the two of them appearing aligned, whether discussing royal life, launching projects, giving interviews, or presenting California identity. Their story has rarely been Meghan and rarely been Harry. The power came from the pair. So when people start noticing separate appearances, different priorities, and awkward moments whenever they reunite, that image becomes harder to maintain. Suddenly, people are not watching a united couple. They are watching two individual brands.
What was Meghan doing sort of describing them as sexy? To me, it felt over the top. It was like, oh gosh, here is something connected to the United Kingdom. We're going to have to make a performance of it. It didn't feel natural to me.
Before we continue, one quick thing. One thing I've realized is that most families don't have their important information organized in one place. That's exactly why I recommend the Family Vault, a simple, printable, and fillable organizer where you can keep everything from important documents and insurance to medical information, passwords. You'll find the link in the description, or you can simply scan the QR code on your screen. Now let's get back to today's story. The real issue is not whether Harry hugged somebody. The question is why people suddenly need to interpret the marriage this much. If Meghan wears the engagement ring at her next appearance, people will say she put it back on, because everyone noticed. If she leaves it off, people will say something is wrong. If Harry travels to Britain alone, everyone will connect that to the rumors. If Meghan suddenly joins him, people will call it damage control. If they post a romantic photograph, people will say they are trying too hard. If they post nothing, people will ask why they are silent. That is the nightmare stage of celebrity speculation. Everything becomes evidence. And that is also how completely unsupported rumors start becoming more dramatic.
And they go from 400 theaters to 200 theaters because nobody is watching this film. And Meghan Markle certainly did not help. I understand why Netflix passed. It just wasn't very good. I don't think the director is very good at telling stories, and Harry and Meghan definitely aren't. And this is just another example in a long line of examples of Meghan Markle's horrible ability as a creative and producer.
Yeah, indeed.
That is why Sydney's hug landed harder than a backstage greeting should have. It arrived after smaller questions had been opened. If the ring had been on, if Harry had been beside her, if the gala had produced nothing except couple photographs, nobody would have cared for long. But every detail changed the meaning people assigned to the next one. By the time Harry reached for Sydney, viewers were primed to treat the moment as another clue. The hug did not create the rumors. It walked straight into rumors that were already waiting. There have already been wild claims floating around about messages, other women and Harry supposedly becoming emotionally interested elsewhere. There is no solid public proof establishing those claims. But rumors do not always grow because somebody finds proof. Sometimes they grow because the public keeps receiving images.
They're just there for kind of the shock value. They're not really there because anybody actually wants them there. And the performance with the bagpipers is just the worst example of that.
They can fit into whatever story they already believe. The missing ring becomes chapter 1. Meghan arriving alone becomes chapter 2. Harry hugging Sydney becomes chapter 3. And the internet happily writes chapters 4 through 50 by itself. Harry and Meghan may have completely innocent explanations for every single thing that happened. Meghan's ring could appear again tomorrow. Harry's hug may have been nothing more than an enthusiastic response to a singer whose performance he loved. Meghan might have watched the entire thing and laughed. There may be absolutely nothing happening behind closed doors. But the strange part is how many innocent explanations suddenly seem necessary. Why is the ring gone? Why did Meghan appear alone? Why did she suddenly tell such a sentimental Harry story while he was missing? Why does Harry seem increasingly pulled back toward Britain? Why did the public appearance that should have calmed everything create even more awkward footage? And why did the exact night that could have buried the marriage rumors end with Harry creating the one image guaranteed to revive them? David Foster's Gala was supposed to deliver Harry and Meghan united, glamorous, happy, unbothered. Instead, Meghan became the joke of the red carpet. Harry's expressions became another debate. Their carefully polished image took another beating. Then Sydney Christmas walked off that stage. Harry stepped toward her. He wrapped her in a hug. And suddenly, everybody remembered one thing. Meghan Markle still was not wearing that engagement ring.